It's good, but no, it's always just an incredible opportunity to be able to speak and to be able to share my thoughts and my perspective regarding the course. And it's usually, around what's going on in my life, because I'm a believer that all I can do is speak is from my experience and how I see things and how I go about in this world that we actually are in. And so one of the things that I always do whenever I'm getting ready to talk, I always ask the Holy Spirit for guidance. What is it that they feel that I needed to talk about? And today, the whole idea of talking about faith kept coming up in my mind to talk about. And then I realized, okay, faith is a big thing. You could talk about many different things regarding faith and which direction to actually go to regarding that aspect of it, and I still wasn't exactly too sure, exactly what direction I want to go when I was guided to talk about faith, but I also knew that I needed to come up with something, because we are required to send in our blurb and our title and our reading to Reverend, Tony and Reverend Kelly and Garrett by a certain time during the week. So you sort of have to do that ahead of time. So you're like, okay, fine, and I have to guidance, help me. And so the whole title of Holding Faith came to my mind regarding to focus on that. And then I was reflecting on my life, and I was reflecting what's actually, going on, in this world. And, as a lot of us know, a lot of us is aware, there is a lot that happens in our world. But more specifically, there's a lot that has been happening, all these different types of shootings that have been taking place in our world, lately in our country, and how that it's, affecting and, impacting so many people these days, and, including, me. And then, what was happening for me and what was coming up for me is the idea of me feeling fearful, feeling like, do I really want to go out to a movie? Not knowing what's going to happen. Do I really want to go out to a big gathering where a lot of people is, because you just never know what's going to, take place, things like that. So it's like all those ego thoughts and all those fears were coming up for me, regarding that when I was thinking about, all the shooting that was, taking place. Specifically, the latest shooting in El Paso, when they specifically targeted, a Mexican person, which is a person of color. And me as an African American, I understand and get that. I understand that when a group doesn't like you because of the skin of your color, and then they're, purposely go after you because of that. It's just, it definitely brings up a lot of different feelings and doubt, a lot of different emotions for me regarding that aspect of it. But then, fortunately, I recognize and understand that I have a course, and to trust in the course and trust to have faith and to hold on to that faith regardless of whatever is happening in this world right now, and to really, really pay attention to that and to allow myself to not buy into those ego thoughts of fear, those ego thoughts of not living my life the way that I'm supposed to live my life. And it's not always easy, but yet I know and I understand how important it is for me to be able to do that. And then it also got me to reflect on, I have these incredible, beautiful great nephews and great nieces that I just so adore so much. They're just such a doll. And their parents always send me pictures of them when they go back to school. So they started school this week, and so they sent me those pictures of them getting ready to go to school, and it was just such a light. But then I get nervous because of all the shootings that that is happening, and wonder like, oh my God, are they going to be okay even in the classroom and stuff like that, because you just don't know these days. And then it made me also reflect on many years ago that I did lose a cousin. He was hanging out with his friends and his girlfriend at a house, and someone did come in and shut up the house. And unfortunately, he got caught in the crossfire and died. And so I experienced it, and I know what it's like when people are just out enjoying themselves, and then someone just randomly comes and shoot up a house for any particular reasons of how that actually can impact you. So those things I recognize and I understand, what happened, and yet I know that it's a time for me to look at it differently. It's a time for me to shift my thoughts and my perception of how I'm going to perceive that, and to actually hold healing and loving thoughts to those individuals who may have done that. You know, it's a reminder for me is that my faith of who I am, I need to hold everyone up to a light in a more caring and loving way. And that's, in my mind, how we go about actually healing the things that happens in this world. And to not allow ourselves to go into our ego mind, which is that guilt and that judgment and those fears that actually comes up for us regarding that aspect of it. You know, the other thing that I realized, and as I was, writing up, my talk and figuring out exactly, everything that I wanted to address, I reflected on my week this week, and it has been a extremely intense week this past week. And the thing is, it has not been intense because of a period of bad things, or a lot of things that were happening that were just like dropping me nuts or anything like regarding that aspect of it. It had more to do with the work that I do, where I had to hold a lot of intense emotions this week. Not only my emotions, but the people who I interacted with, to the point where it became just emotionally and mentally overwhelming for me. Even to the point in our Thursday night class, which is unusual, I pretty much didn't say much. I just sat there and listened to people speaking, because I just felt like I didn't have the mental capacity or anything to take in anymore at that moment. And it made me think, it's like, okay, am I supposed to be doing the work that I am doing? Am I actually capable of holding all those emotions that constantly come out at me? And then that reminded me of holding faith, of trusting that I was put in this position for a reason, and that I know that I have the capability to be able to hold those intense, stressful feelings and emotions that people bring at me, and yet that I bring to myself regarding that aspect of it. And so then the course reminds us of this: the power set in you, in whom the Holy Spirit goal has been established, is so far beyond your little conception of the infinite that you have no idea how great the strength that goes with you, and you can use this in perfect safety. The strength that goes with you, how great that is. And for me, it reminded me of one of the intense moments that I had this week at work. So one of the things I do, as a lot of you guys know, I work for the Census for the Department of Public Health, and I do a lot of work regarding racial equity. And one of the things that we do is we hold this equity learning series once a month, where we send people different articles or videos regarding race, things that comes up, and then we actually have a discussion with people regarding that, either that article or that video. So that's what we do. And so this week, I was asked to do one for one of our agencies, here within the department. And the article that we had them to read was regarding microaggression. And so, I figured that was going to be probably like, 5 or 10 people who shows up. It was like 50 people who showed up. And I was just like, all right, how am I going to go about addressing this intense topic regarding microaggression that's related to the work that we do, and how it actually affects us all, and be able to hold that. And I was starting to feel and start to have my own doubts regarding that aspect of it. But then I realized that it was just important for me to trust, to hold the faith that I have, but more importantly, just to hold that space for them, to be able to share whatever comes up for them regarding this particular article on microaggression. And I had the opportunity to share, one of my thoughts and my experience from reading the article, and they gave different types of examples. And one of the examples that they gave that stood out for me was where there was this Asian American and this African American persons who, got on a plane, and then they got on a plane, and then what happened was the flight attendant said, you can have open seating so you can sit wherever you would like to sit. And so they chose to sit, towards the, front row regarding that aspect of it, and so went on by their business. And then it was getting close for the plane to close, and then three other people walked in, three white men came in, and then they actually sat, in the front as well. After the flight attendant told them the same thing, you can sit wherever you want to sit. It's, it's opening seating, and so they, sat there. And so then they closed the doors, get ready to take off, and then the flight attendant went up to the Asian American person and the African American person and asked them to move to the back. And they, asked them to move to the back because in their mind it was the way to balance the plane, because since it was not crowded. Regarding that, and so then the article went more and more, talk about that, and then it was very interesting is as these two, the African American and the Asian was on the plane first, but yet when the three white men came in later, they were not asked to move. It was more about them, the African American and Asian one who had to move to the thing there. And so while we were discussing that and reflecting on that, and then I realized how that happened to me a couple of times, but I never thought about it. I never reflect on the microaggression and the things that happens, to us. But then the thing is, though, is for me to take a step back and look and understand what really was going on, what's the context of it, and how to see it in a different light. How to trust and hold faith that each and every one of us do things that we may not be aware of, but yet it's a moment and opportunity to heal ourselves, to heal exactly what may have taken place in that, instead of allowing myself to sit in anger and rage and all those different emotions that comes up. Because for me, that doesn't help. It helps more when I trust and have faith and know that things are meant to happen the way that they're actually supposed to happen. And so for me, that was a very powerful lesson to be able to do. And it also allowed the opportunity for the individuals that were there. It was a mixed group of people, African American, Latino, Asian, whites, to be able to have a rich and powerful conversation about how that impacts us individually, but also in the workplace. And the reason why that was able to happen is because I was able to create a safe space, but only be able to do that. And I know I would not be able to do that if I wouldn't have listened, if I wouldn't have not listened to the Spirit guidance and let me know, trust, hold on to the faith that you have, that this is the moment that you're supposed to be in. Hold all those 50 individuals' feelings, emotions, experiences that they shared in front of everyone, no matter how painful it was. No matter how painful it was, but just to hold that for them, to be able to do that. And I know, and I'm so grateful that I have a practice to be able to allow me to be able to do that, to hold theirs, but also to be able to hold mine, and to be there for them, even understanding the things that are coming up for me as well, but knowing this is an opportunity for them to heal as one. Then Christ tells us this: you think you hold against your brother what he has done to you, but what you really blame him for is what you did to him. It is not his past, but yours. You hold against him, and you lack faith in him because of what you were. These are going to happen in our lives. It's just the reality in this world that we are in. But the thing is for us to look at our part and look at what is it that we can do to shift and change the paradigm that may appear to exist. That's what we're supposed to do. And for me, that is being able to trust and hold on to the faith that I have, that no matter what, this is where I'm supposed to be. And I had to do that again the next day, where we had this consultation group, and one of the people had to present on a case, and they presented on a case where it had to do, something with, two white parents who, adopted a young African American child, and so they presented what was going on and all that stuff, and it brought so much rage in me. It was just to the point where I had to be quiet with that whole consultation group because I was afraid if I would have said something, it would have come out in a more sort of kind of comfort or healing way to help guide the discussion. But holding on to something that intense and getting that reaction from a case presentation reminded me of how much work it is still important for me to do, within myself, but also be able to see what's going on with other people in the room. Because the way they were responding just added to my rage. But Spirit guiding me is like, okay, do not say anything at this moment. You would have an opportunity to be able to process it. And I did. Fortunately, that same day, I was able to meet with my supervisor, and they were able to hold a space for me to be able to process what came up for me in that moment. It's being able to create, to hold a space, to hold our faith, so we can process these things. We can process our emotions and our feelings. Yes, they may be uncomfortable at times, but yet that uncomfortableness is not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing, because it's allowing you to understand that you're working through these things. By working through them, then we get to a place that we're supposed to be at. And that's the beauty in my mind of it. And then, of course, says this: there is no cause for faithlessness, but there is cause for faith. It really is a golden opportunity for us. And for me, I have another golden opportunity to work with African American men who live in the Tenderloin, and to be able to create a space for them to talk about the trauma that they have experienced. This week, me and my co-facilitator met with some of the potential participants in there, and to hear their stories, to hear the trauma that they've been through. These men who are going to be part of these groups are older men in their 50s and 60s, so they've had a lot of experience in this country and how it's impacted them. But to be able to take in that was so intense. But yet we created that space for them to be vulnerable, for them to be able to share their deepest, darkest feelings at that moment. And that's because I know I was able to hold the space. I was able to hold the faith in me that this is where I'm supposed to be. I was given a gift to be able to hold the different feelings and emotions that people bring towards me, because they understand that I'm coming from a place of love. I'm coming from a place to heal and seeing them as a whole people, not as people may perceive who they are. Yes, there are a lot of challenges in this world that goes on, but yet each and every one of us has the strength, the power, the belief within ourselves to be able to hold on to anything that's given our way. And that's the beauty of the course, and that's the beauty of us being able to hold ourselves for who we are and understanding that. And as the course says, truth calls for faith, and faith makes room for truth. Each and every one of us have the faith, each and every one of us have the truth, and each and every one of us have the strength to be able to hold faith within ourselves and within this world that we are in. And that's my talk.